All right, let's talk about rewiring our brains because the internet and technology and phones, it is actually doing it to us. Let's look at 8 ways that technology is rewiring our brains. We now dream in color, which we did not do a long time ago. We're going to get to that one in a little bit. We experience FOMO. Do you guys know what FOMO is? You two hipsters?
Yeah.
Fear of missing out, that's right. Phantom vibration syndrome, which I think we've all had in our pocket right now. We can't sleep, that's a big one. Our memory and attention span aren't that great. I really want to talk about that one. We have better visual skills. We have poorer impulse control. We create more. So these aren't all terrible. Some of these are actually good if we have better visual skills and we're creating more and connecting with people in different ways. So let's just look at a couple of these. So the dreaming in color one I thought was really interesting. A 2008 study found out that adults who grew up in houses with black and white TVs were more likely to dream in black and white. So that's sort of like the first version of this where somehow technology was changing what's going on in our brain. Doesn't that seem, it seems kind of crazy actually, doesn't it?
And then I don't even know what people were dreaming about before they grew up in a black and white television. Were they dreaming at all? Like were cavemen dreaming at all? I mean, who knows? I just, that seems crazy to me.
Probably color.
Probably it was coming out of their eyes. Just
I see what you were doing there, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. That one seems absolutely crazy to me. I can't remember any of my dreams in the first place, so I'm not sure.
I'm a vivid dreamer, and it's always in color. And I remember them.
Even if you watched I Love Lucy, it's still in color?
They're still in color.
Still in color.
They're sometimes crazy, sometimes weird. But yeah, I've always been a dreamer. I have friends who say they never dream, but there was a study that says everyone dreams, everyone doesn't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up in a household with a color TV, so that's probably why I am a color dreamer.
Just strapped to your head like that, just watching it.
With the belt, just like watching it.
Exactly. So, all right, so speaking of dreams, so that we can't sleep, I thought this was kind of interesting. So neuroscientists suspect that all the lights from your iPad and your iPhone and everything else is actually like scrambling your brain right before you go to sleep, so you can't sleep. Do you guys suffer from this at all? Because
I literally just bought blackout curtains for my bedroom for that reason, right? Because the light, it does really like keep you some level of awake, or when you do kind of wake up to turn over, the light hits your eyes and it makes it harder for you to go back to sleep. But now the blackout curtains help a lot.
Yeah, do you do any of the shutdown? Do you guys do the shutdown? I've really been trying like an hour before I go to bed to stop looking at Twitter, really stop so that my brain has a second just to
Well, that's
to
what I've
slowly
been
shut
trying to
down.
do too, which is that like previously into the last like 2 weeks, I'm terrible at it, but the last thing that I do is look at my phone, and then the first thing I do when I wake up is look at my phone, and it's terrible. That does send me into some not able to sleep kind of world. It's terrible because and it sort of I think goes into the FOMO part, which is that I'm always thinking, you know, what happened? Did I miss something? What's going on? And I can't get to sleep. So I'm trying to shut that whole thing off.
Yeah. So we'll do one more bad one and then some of the good ones. So the attention span thing I think is the big one. I'm finding this with everybody that people's attention span is completely shot. You can be having a conversation with someone right face to face like this, and then without a beat, they'll start looking at their phone right in front of you.
Right.
And and then the conversation continues, but then they're answering slower. We're all doing it. We're looking this way. What?
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm guilty myself. Is that, to me, this is the biggest one of this whole thing, that our brains are being split into 2 worlds, the online world and the offline.
Like I'm usually like answering emails from work, or someone has texted me that wants an immediate response, and I'm like, okay, I can wait, or I can just do this right now really quick while they're talking and still listen, and then sit and go back to the conversation.
But you can't.
But like, you heard like 80% of what they said, and it's a bad habit, but we all do it because our minds are in all these different places at one time. We're at work, we're with our friend, we're waiting for this to hear back from something we might want to do, and like all this stuff is happening, and you're just so like wired.
So could that possibly be good? Because I think the counter argument is that because we have all this stuff, that actually we're starting to be able to multitask in newer ways, and that maybe the technology will remember things for us, so that your brain will be able to use it. You know, you'll use that processing power in your brain for other stuff. So is that?
I think it would be great if we were able to improve our multitasking, but I don't think that that's really possible. I mean, for me, it's like I think it's strange that when you get a text, it goes in front of the line of the person that you're talking to, right? It's like when you're at the deli and you're ordering something and somebody calls and orders something on the phone and they go first and you're like, oh man, how do they go first, right? Because they call. But the same thing happens now with your phones all the time trying to send. And I just think guys are really bad in particular at multitasking. We've just never been able to hear two conversations at the same time or do two things at the same time. So I hope that it makes us better, but I doubt it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll give you one potentially positive one here, that we have better visual skills. The study found out that first-person shooter games like Halo, Call of Duty, I know Travon's a big video game guy, that they actually boost decision-making skills. This was always my argument when I was playing video games as a kid, and my dad would be like, get outside and play out there. And I'd be like, my eye-hand coordination, it's so good. Do you think there's some legitimacy to that argument, that maybe through playing video games and all this digital stuff, that maybe we are doing something that's good up there?
I love Call of Duty. I also think there's truth to that, because when I was in college, we actually had this video game that someone developed to make you a better player, hand-eye coordination, timing, and decision-making. And it was just a game. It was like you were shooting these little things and having to time all this stuff, and it was supposed to improve the way you saw the court, the timing you took with passing or shooting and decision making. So apparently there's some truth to it.
Right. Even though you could actually go outside and pass and shoot.
Sure.
Do all that stuff too if you were really old school. All right, final thought on this. What about all these people that are going off the grid? Do you guys envy them at all? I actually have someone fairly close to me that is off the grid, legitimately off the grid, and I sort of have this real admiration for it, and I say that with all due irony, knowing how much I tweet and do a YouTube show and all that stuff.
I'm so jealous of it. It's like a dream of mine to be able to totally show off. Somebody was talking about this theory that they had where they say it's something called like using the internet dressed while you're dressed. It's this whole idea that, why do you use your phone or anything when you're lying in bed or while you're, in your pajamas? You should only use the phone when you're dressed for work. So I like that theory, but I would love to go off the grid entirely.
I think if one of us could do it, it's definitely. I feel like you could take this sweater with you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'd be fine.
I can't afford to, because I have a job that requires me to be on the grid all the time.
Right.
So.
Well, you switch your job. Your job becomes like collecting firewood.
Right. Then you're mountain man.
Yeah, you grow out the Angus.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Throwing it back.
Join the church.
Right.
Do you admire these people at all? Do you think they're
Sure,
doing something?
I try to do like, okay, I'm gonna go like an hour without looking at my phone. Like it's baby steps, but it's really hard because everyone's always trying to contact you for something.
But don't you think that you set that up yourself? I mean, isn't that a self-imposed sort of thing? However you make yourself available, people will try to get in, right? So if you set up those boundaries, maybe.
I mean, I do sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, will ignore it until I have time to get back to it. But I get like emails from my agents and people who are saying, hey, we got this thing for you, we need to know like right now. And and so those are the things, even though they don't happen enough for me to be that paranoid, they happen enough that where it's like, did I miss anything? Because there have been times where I missed stuff because I didn't respond to the email in 20 minutes. And so I'm like, I got this feeling of like every 20 minutes I got to see what my email's doing. I got to.
So you just wrapped it all up for us because you have the fear of missing out of things that haven't even happened, and that's why you're looking at your phone.
But those things bring me money.
And now we have the actual wrap up of the whole thing.